Hi everyone, this is the second content video for the BCS course called Business Technology, We're going to continue to build on what we learned last week about spreadsheets. For week 2, we're going to talk about formatting basics and cell referencing. So for our overview, we're going to talk about text formatting within Excel, cell formatting, and then using cell references, and we're going to start with some cell formatting right here. As you'll remember from last time, I'm going to go ahead and just open this sheet right here. Just a quick review. This is called the ribbon. These are called tabs up here at the top. Excel is set up similar to a lot of other Microsoft Office products in that the Home tab up here has a lot of different text formatting options. So we're going to go over a couple of them right now. I have input some fake data in right here, some pretend names. And I just want to give a couple examples of how we can edit these different things. So to start talking about changing text size, we just need to click on a cell or a group of cells that we want to change the text size on. And we can just change those up and down. You can also change the type of text if you'd like to do that. Next, let's talk a little bit about color. Let's say, for example, I'm just going to set these back to what they were before. Let's say, for example, that we'd like to have a fill color behind this top row here. Up here we have options for fill colors, so you can go ahead and choose whatever color you want. Similar to the last video, I'd advise you, as I'm going through this, to pull up your own spreadsheet and kind of follow along, click around. It will help you in the long run be able to have a little bit more of a clear picture of how to use Excel if you're just doing it alongside. So that's how to change fill color. We can also change the text color. That's right here. I'm going to make it white so it's a little bit easier to see. Alignment. So as you can see, most of these cells, they're left aligned. Now we can change that up here in this little box. So these numbers, they're aligned to the right. If for some reason I wanted them to be aligned to the left, I have this option. This is center, this is right. You can also align them. Let's say one of these cells is more open. So right now they're aligned in the bottom right. Let's say I want them top left. I would move them to the left and then to the top. You can also go middle, whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and leave them back where they were. I think it looked best from the first. That's how to do alignment. A little side note on text wrapping versus not text wrapping. Let me just take this off. I have some text that I've typed out here. Now, as you can see, this starts in this cell here, E2. Now, we have the option to wrap text, which is this little button up here. If I click wrap text, it goes ahead and it wraps all that text into this one cell. It doesn't bleed over. I'm going to take that off again. So right now, it's only in this cell here. Now, if I click on this cell F2 and start typing, it cuts that off, but we can't see all the text that's here. So there's a couple ways that we can handle that. First, you can go ahead and merge and center. Now, what merge does is it merges a group of cells together. So let's say I want to kind of fit all of this text into this group of cells, this range of cells here. This button is merge and center. I'm going to click that. Now what you see is these cells have all been merged together and the text has been centered. And then if I go ahead and click wrap text, now all of the text shows up within that group of merged cells. That's just a little bit about text wrapping versus no wrapping. There's times where, if you'll look back over here, maybe this height column is a little bit shortened and we can't see that it's in inches. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but you can go ahead and change the width to be able to see all of that. If you have data that's extremely long, let's say this is really short, we can't see these numbers here, and you'd like to be able to see all of them. So you can go ahead and change that width. Like you saw me do earlier, you can edit the height of the cells as well by coming over here to the side, clicking on a row in between two rows, and then dragging to the height that you'd like them to be. Let's talk a little bit about cell formatting. I kind of just covered some of this, changing the width and height of cells. So like I said, you can just change the width like this, you can change the height like this, clicking in between the cells. Now if you try and click on a column, it's going to just highlight that whole column. It has to be in between for you to be able to adjust the height. Excel is set up so that it's smart on its own. So let's say I have all this data smashed in right here. I can go ahead and do this and try and get it just right. Or Excel is smart enough that if I go and I double click, it automatically fits the width of this column to the data. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to B, and to C you'll see it. It automatically fits so that all of the data in there fits just right. Now if you want it to be wider, you can go ahead and make that wider. Another thing that you can do is, let's say I want A, B, and C to all be the same width. I can highlight all of them, double click in between, and let's see, I'm not doing that right. There we go. Now they're all the same width. So I just drag to the width that I want, and they all snap to fit and be the exact same width as each other. So that's a little bit about auto sizing. Cell borders. So for example here, I'm going to take this fill away and set this kind of back to normal, no fill, and go back to black. So let's say I don't want to add colors, but I do want to be able to denote that this top row here is the labels, the column labels. Right here we have what's called, it's kind of the little drop down menu for borders. So I can go ahead and click on here. It gives you drop down a bunch of different options. So let's say for these ones I want a bottom border to be able to denote the column headers. So I go ahead and click bottom border, click off. Now they've been separated a little bit. Maybe for these names right here, I want a border on the side of them so that all of the data is just represented here. I can go here, I want the border to be on the right side of these cells, so it shows up like that. That just kind of helps to organize things visually so that it's a little bit easier to look at. I could go ahead and put a border around the whole thing, just by way of another example. Outside borders, that puts a border around everything. You can go ahead and add thick borders so that, oh, sorry, I wasn't highlighted there. You can add thick borders so that it's a little bit stronger of a look. I would just go ahead and, like I said always, just go ahead and play with this. As you get into organizing your spreadsheets, and we're going to see kind of look at a little bit more complex spreadsheets in the next couple weeks here, doing some financial models. This type of organization, this type of visual look is something that is super important for data to look good, be easy to understand. When you have a financial model that is taking up, a giant amount of space on the spreadsheet, doing these little things help to organize things so that it's easier visually to understand when you have so much data. It's not quite as big of a deal, and maybe you think it's silly to do it here, but when we get into the bigger amounts of data, doing little things like this, doing colors, and we'll talk a little bit about some industry standard stuff, it's important. Talked about merging and centering. Just really quick, just so everyone can see again, I had that text that was here. Let's say I wanted to name, I'm going to just go ahead and shift this down. I wanted to name, this data, let's just name it height versus salary. Let's say I wanted that to kind of be the header. I'm going to go ahead, highlight all these. You saw me use merge and center earlier. It merges and centers. Maybe I want that to be bigger. Just going kind of a quick review of everything we've talked about here. And I want that back to be filled by a different color. And I want the font to be, let's say I want the font just to be white. We'll just do white for now. I can go ahead and give this a thick outside border, and that's much easier to look at. Cell fill color, I covered that a little bit just so that everyone sees again. You're going to go ahead and click on a cell that you want to fill, and then up here, you click on the color that you'd like it to have. So let's say, for example, I have some other data over here that I'd like it to be here. And there's two ways you can do that. You could copy all of it. We've talked about that before. You can paste it there. Let's say I don't want to do that, and I just want to remove all of these or some of these columns that are in between. What I can do is I can double click on the top of a column here. I can go and I can delete. So if I want to get rid of all these, I can highlight all of them, double click, not double click, right click, and then click delete. Now that shifts this over to here. I'm going to go back really quick, Command Z. You also have options to do that up here. So let's say I highlight all of these again, and I just click delete. These three drop downs are having to do with inserting cells, rows, columns, or deleting cells, rows, or columns. So let's say, for example, kind of just another way to look at this, I want to insert another name here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click, click insert. That gives me a new row above what the data was here, and I can put a new name. Let's just put this, and then I can put some other data in. And let's say that's one way you can add rows, and you can also, like I said, let's say we had a blank row here and we just wanted to get rid of it. You can right click, and then delete. Same thing, you can just use these buttons up here, click delete, that takes it away. Or let's say we had maybe we have a column that we want to insert new data in a column. I can go and click insert. I click insert, it adds a new column, and we are able to put in more data here. Again, maybe we have an empty one and we just want to get rid of it. And that's how you would do that. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to get rid of both of these now. Right click, delete. That's how we add and remove rows. Now, maybe we have, let me just clean this up really quick. Maybe we have some data that we don't want to delete it, but we'd like to hide it for a second. So maybe Jason, Jax, we want to hide them for a moment. So I'm going to highlight both of those, right click, and down here we have the option to hide. Now I'm going to click hide. Excel shows us that there's something hidden here. It gives us this dark line so that we notice it for later. It also jumps from 3 to 6 if we're not seeing it, so that we're able to hide that data. So maybe for some reason we just wanted to look at these 3 people, we're able to hide that section. And then to unhide, we're going to double click on it, unhide, I think you have to highlight both here, unhide, and then they're back. You can do the same thing. Maybe I want to hide the height. I would right click, click hide, and there we go. Highlight both of these, right click, unhide. Keep moving along here. We're going to talk a little bit about some cell referencing. And let me just give you a quick little overview and look at what cell referencing is, how it works, and you'll start to see the power that it can have. So these are just kind of some of the quick steps of how you are going to cell reference, and I'm gonna go ahead and just show you kind of what that looks like here, just so it's actually a little bit more applicable. So let's say on a different part of the spreadsheet, I want to have just Thatcher's data show up. And now you have to imagine that when you get a lot more data, let's say we have, instead of just a small set of data here, if our data is stretching all the way out here, we can start to just pick out little bits that we want. So let's say I want Thatcher's data, and then I'm going to create just another little table here. I want to show his height labeled here, and I just did something really quick, so let me go back. So to start, I just want to kind of label this table, and I don't want to retype everything. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to click on a cell, and I'm going to hit equal sign. Then I'm going to go over to the cell that I want the data to come from. So for this example, I want this this cell here to say height. So I go and click this. Now this cell H2 is referencing B2. If I hit enter, what's in B2 automatically shows up in H2 over here. So I'm going to do that again with salary. I'm going to hit equal sign. I'm going to go and I'm going to click on the cell that I want to show up, and then I'm going to hit enter. Now salary shows up. So now I want the actual values. So Thatcher's height, I'm going to hit equal sign, click on the cell, hit equal sign, come back over here. Thatcher's height, there it is. Click on it, enter. 72. This one is his salary. So I'm in this cell, equal sign, I go and find his salary, click it, enter. So instead of having to come over here and click, okay, he's 72 inches tall and I have to type it, and then 70,000, I have to type it. It saves you time because you're able to just reference the cells. Now, another cool part about this is that if I change, let's say over here, we find out, okay, his salary went up this year. I can go ahead and change it. And let's say instead of making $70,000, he's now making $80,000. I go and I change it there. And because this cell, I want you to watch this cell as I hit enter. I hit enter, it automatically updates to 80,000. That's super important, just because when you're building a spreadsheet, you might need this salary number in this example to show up multiple different times, and you kind of have it here so that you can reference it, and whenever you change this, it's going to change and update in all the other different parts of the cell. So that way you don't, or all the other different parts of the worksheet. That way you don't have to go and change this value 10 different times when you have it in the worksheet. Now, the use of that will again make more sense as we start to use these bigger models. But if I have, a different part that's over here, Thatcher's salary, and I need that to show up, and then it's over here, and it makes an update at the beginning. I go, okay, now he's making $90,000. It updates here and it updates here. So that's just a little bit of a taste of cell referencing, why we use it, how it can be used. Again, here's just the basic steps to doing a cell reference. Now, absolute cell references. Let's talk a little bit about this. So let's say I just want to replicate this salary data. I'm just going to go ahead and delete all this. Let's say I want to replicate the salary data for everybody over here. I don't need their names. I don't need anything else. I just need their salary data. Sorry. One more time. So for Thatcher, I just want this line here to show up all here. I'm going to go ahead and click this. Now we've already seen how that happens. Now Excel is smart. It can actually update all of this row. This is called the autofill handle, and we can use it just to update all of this row. So I can go and click on this little box in the right corner and drag down. And as I drag down, it automatically, it notices that, okay, I referenced this cell, and if I drag that autofill handle down, it starts to reference the next cell, and the next cell, and the next cell. Delete these really quick. So why would we want to use absolute cell references? So let me just give you a quick look at what that is. Maybe I just want this salary data, this 90,000, to show up in all these lines. So what I have to do is I can't just go and, I could go through and hit equals, click that, do it again here, click that, but that takes a long time. So if I undo that really quick, what I can do is I can make an absolute reference so that this C3 sticks. And let me show you what that means. So if I add a $sign in front of both the C and the 3, and then I go and click the autofill handle and drag it down, watch, these are all going to become 90,000 because they've all been kind of stuck to this point. Now, this $sign sticks it to this row, or to this column, excuse me, and this $sign in front of the 3 sticks it to this row. There's some shortcuts, and hopefully you can see the usefulness of this right now. Just because if I wanted this 90,000 to show up on each line, I can get it to stick there, and I don't have to go reference it 5 different times. I just have to do it once. There's a quicker way also, just a little side note, to get these absolute references. And what you do is, I'm going to click here. You click the FN button on Mac and the function button on PC and Windows, and then you click F2. Excuse me. Excuse me, not F2. It is F4. Sorry. F4, and that's going to toggle through the different options automatically for you. So this is the original. I click FN and then F4. That puts absolute references on both. Click it again, just on the row. Click it again, just on the column, and then back to normal. That's just a little shortcut for you. Talked about the autofill handle. It can just make things a lot quicker. Let's say I just want to bring in all of this data here. So I go bring over Thatcher, and then I have the autofill handle. I grab it, I drag it over. That brings his 72 and 90, and then I go and I drag it again, drag it down, and now I have all of that same data brought over, and they're referenced. So like I said earlier, if I make a change here, it automatically is updated here. Let's see, cell references can be made across worksheets and even across workbooks. So I'm just going to talk a little bit quickly about this. Maybe on this sheet I have the height versus salary, and on a different sheet I just have, some other data. I can go and, again, I'm just going to work with Thatcher's data. If I want to reference his data here, I can just click, hit enter. Really quickly, let me just show what I did again. I started on this sheet, sheet 2, clicked equal sign, come over here, find the cell that I want to be referenced, click on it, enter, and now it's on sheet 2. So just like on the other sheets, if this number updates, it's going to be updated anywhere else that it is referenced. So I click 80,000, go back to sheet 2, it's now 80,000. This can also be done across workbooks. So if I had a different workbook open, I could go onto that other workbook, hit the equal sign, come back to this workbook, choose a cell, and it would automatically be input into the other workbook. Talked about this, but just changing the root cell, so this being the root cell, any change in here is going to be changed in all the cells that reference it. So that is just a look at how we do cell referencing. If you need to come back, please come back and look through these slides. Again, we covered a lot of things in here just to kind of review. We talked about kind of all these different things: cell formatting, text formatting, then cell references just here at the end. Go back, look at the slides, kind of play with some of these things on your own, and it will kind of start to make a little bit more sense over time.